Welcome to the good, the bad, and the sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is Transylmania. It is kind of a loose sequel that has some of the same characters from Daze 1 and 2, which actress Jennifer Lyons, 3-4 years ago now, told us, you know what, it kind of is a sequel because it has the same characters. So we're going to do it because this week's guest, actress Musetta Vander, we covered the sequels that she's in. One movie we couldn't even find anywhere, but we covered Mortal Kombat 2 Annihilation, where she played Queen Sindel. And we covered Oblivion 2, where she plays the gorgeous and badass Lash. She tells an amazing behind-the-scenes story about a bit that we talked about a lot in that episode, where a man gets cut below the belt, and it is her ex-husband. So, wow, what a flashback to that. Yeah, Musetta was cool to talk about. Growing up in South Africa, growing up in the country, like just hearing you describe it. Because when you think of South Africa, I don't think of that part of it. That's just me being an American and not knowing too much about South Africa. But she talked about like monkeys everywhere and in her neighborhood. And we talked about her getting into dancing and ballet, and then the dancing and ballet, and that leads to coming over to the States to be in music videos. So one early on was a Tina Turner video. She's like the star within the video. Then we talk about early roles that she had. One that was really cool that I think was probably bigger because of the way the shows were back then. She was on Murder, She Wrote. And even in her episode, there was a few other people that went on to do something down the road. But then after that, she hits on Oblivion 2. She's in shows like Boy Meets World, Diagnosis Murder. So she's there. And then she has Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And then the big blockbuster, she is in Wild Wild West. We talked about that. And we talked about so much, a cool small role that she had, but so important in Oh Brother, We're Out Thou. But it was just really cool to hear about her journey, the way movies change. One movie that I love her in from later on in the mid-2000s, she's in Kicking and Screaming. And we talked about, she had some cool Ditka stories and just how that movie, went. Because she said how many other scenes were shot and just never made it. Just never made it into the movie because the whole tone of the movie changed. At first, it was going to be more about the father-son dynamic and the kids sprinkled in, and then they were like, let's focus on that. So it was pretty cool to hear about that. And a ton more. And she's in so much. Ugh. Amazing actress, amazing person, and some amazing stories from her career. And she's got a lot coming out. So I'll put her IMDb in the notes as well, so you can make sure you keep tabs on her. You can hit follow on IMDb, see what's coming out soon. But yeah, she's an absolute blast. Before I start the interview, do me a favor, please like, share, subscribe, wherever you're listening. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And you can watch an unedited video interview of this. She had a pretty professional setup for when she does self-tapes. There's a green screen behind her. So you can check that out. And you can follow us on YouTube and subscribe. That helps us out. Get a little coin to help just keep funding the operations. We're not trying to buy any big boats. Just a little boat. So without further ado, here is actress Musetta Vander. It was funny, the first time we were going to connect, I'm in New Jersey now. Like, that's where I grew up. But when I was, me and my wife lived in Portland for a little bit. So I remember, like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to her in a few days. And I saw like an Instagram story. It was like Multnomah Falls. You stopped at?
Yeah, I love Oregon. I just recently discovered it. It's one of the most breathtakingly beautiful places in America.
Yeah, and the beaches are something that, when I was a kid, that was something you only saw in movies, like Goonies, and
yes,
because you never expect to see rocks coming out. I don't know,
like
is South Africa
rock coming out?
What's the beach like there?
The only way I can describe it is like I've always thought that South Africa had the most beautiful beaches in the entire world. And they do. They have beautiful beaches. But something about Oregon, it's like, it's unspoiled. It's raw. You have these ginormous trees. You have these volcanic mountains coming out of the ocean. I mean, honestly, I was driving and stopping everywhere going, I was taking photos and everybody was doing it as well. They were like, isn't this amazing? I go, it's amazing. What took me so long to get here, But I hear the winters are brutal. Yeah. I don't know
Maybe in
about the
that part,
winters.
like in Portland, because they didn't use salt. Like most states will use salt if you're used to snow.
Yeah.
Like growing up in
Yeah.
Jersey, like
Yeah.
it could be a lot of snow. They throw a ton of salt down and it melts it. They didn't believe in
Uh-huh.
it like the first 2 years we were there. And when it freezing rain, like really shut the city down. It was something I never thought. Like work was sending you home because it's gonna start freezing rain in an hour. I'm like, really? And then yeah.
No, it was crazy. I mean, because I was looking at property there because I thought, oh my gosh, this is like everything I love. It's the outdoors, it's the ocean, it's like a combination of both. And then people were like, well, the winters, you can't even determine the
Yeah.
direction of the rain. It's like coming from the ground up and from the side.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, maybe not.
yeah. Well, that's so cool. No, that's awesome. So growing up in South Africa, what was that like where you grew up? Was it city, country, rural? I wouldn't even guess. Like I've seen Johannesburg and things in like documentaries or movies, but I never think of other parts of South Africa.
Well, I grew up in Durban, which is along the coast, but I was kind of
Oh, okay.
inland. In the beginning, when I was very, very young, we were on the coastline, which was great. I'm a big ocean lover. But it's very tropical. It was very tropical and lush. Like think like Costa Rica. Okay. It was like that kind of
Wow.
vibe, humid, very jungly. We had monkeys. Like I come home from school, we had all this land next door where the monkeys were there and they come in the house, you come open the kitchen and they're like swinging from your kitchen cupboards. It was just surreal. And we had like these leguans. They would walk around the property and
That's amazing.
there's things that I would go on safaris with my best friend because we didn't have TV. So we would like call each other across the mountaintops, because there's no cell phones, and we would
Yeah.
just holler over the mountaintops, "Come play!" And build forts, and we were very outdoorsy and adventurous. We still are. It's funny. We're still friends to this day, and even
Oh, that's great.
even when I go visit her in London, she lives in London now. We will ride out into some park in the middle of London. That also has exquisite forests and stuff that I've never
Really?
even.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, with like lakes of beautiful with deer and like beautiful swans, and I was like, wow, right in the center of London. You can just like a half
Wow,
an
that's
hour
awesome.
away. Yeah, so she's of course discovered all of that, and so she takes me there. We even go get our water at an original fountain, underground water spring that the Romans used in like Caesar's time.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, she brings like buckets of own water. I go, really? Is that okay to drink? She's like, yes, I've been drinking it for years. I'm like, okay, you're still living, so.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, that's amazing. Portland has that too. Did you have a chance to check out Portland, or you just stay like on the coast?
No, I was actually up at Washington State. I was all the way
Oh, cool.
at Mount, what is it called?
Rainier or Mount St.
No,
Helens?
no. Uh, hmm. It'll come to me, but it was incredible. I was completely unprepared for this. Okay. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think okay. And then I'm driving from LA because I'm like all about like, I prefer to drive if I can than fly because I can see everything.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm like
that's a fun
driving and I'm
drive.
like,
I like
oh,
that
it's great.
drive.
Oh, it's great. And I'm like, wow, it's like a lot of volcanoes here. And I'm like, wow. And then I'm seeing like, welcome to Bigfoot country. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
And anyway, so when I finally got up to, it was just across the border from Oregon into Washington.
Okay.
I stayed there at this unbelievable place where it was out in the middle of nowhere. And of course, I had very interesting experiences there, put it mildly. And that was my first,
Wow.
first experience of it. But I had to actually stop at a store because as I was driving, I realized I actually don't have warm enough clothes. So I had to go buy like sweaters and, trunks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
sweatpants. It's very funny. Very funny. But
Oh
now
my God, that's
I
so-
know.
Now you're prepared. So you're having that unbelievable childhood. That's like you think about it's like the Jungle Book, like having the opportunity to like that's like a dream for in America. Like I can't even think of it. Like just monkeys being everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a, you don't think about it because we didn't grow up with TV. I didn't at that stage
Yeah,
because TV only came much later. But, that was what it was. We had a ballet studio at the house. So I'd do ballet classes with my mom. And then it was playtime with my friend. And I mean, we would go for adventures. In Cape Town, even today, you still get the baboons. You'd be driving and suddenly that's just like baboons coming down the neighborhood. You're like, wait, is that a baboon? So you gotta like lock your windows and doors because before you know it, they were in the house. I remember being at a hotel up in many years later when I was doing a job out there at Sun City. I was in my bedroom and I had taken my jewelry off and I had a bag of M&Ms, like there on the
Yeah.
counter. And I came back into the room and there was a monkey sitting on my bed, like on my pillow, and he had my M&Ms and he's going, and I was like, oh, I just took a photo. I didn't know what to do. So I took a photo.
Yeah.
And apparently they come in and they steal like shiny things like jewelry and stuff because, they
They're
attracted. So the
thieves.
people will come by home and they'd be like, somebody robbed us. And then I go, did you leave your windows open and your sliding doors? They're like, yeah. Because even though you're way up, the monkeys get up there and they just, come and help themselves to whatever's in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So at what point when you're growing up, like you said, no TV, you're doing ballet, being outside all the time. What was that first, hey, I want to act, or what was your first step towards it while you're in South Africa still?
Well, like my mom was a ballet teacher, so I was always in the arts. And even though we didn't have TV, we had drive-in theater. So when I was a kid, we would go to the drive-in, and I would always
Oh,
have to
okay,
hide
cool.
behind the thing, and I would see the movies, and I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." And then one day, when I was probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9, I got a book, Careers for Girls, and it had all these things like a nurse, a secretary, whatever, a mom. I was like, no, no, no. Let me just going through all the whole list of stuff. And then I saw an actress, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be that. She was standing on a sound stage, and there was like a guy with a shotgun mic, a boom mic, holding it like this, and all the crew was around. That's what I'm going to do, because I identified with that because I was a dancer my whole life, and I was always on a
Yeah,
stage. And to me, I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. It's obvious.
that is
And so it
awesome.
was just a natural progression. I was just like, yeah, that's what I have to do. And of course I
Oh
love it.
wow.
I do love it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. So what was that from there? Did you you were was there local theater or
No, what happened is I wanted to go study at the university. I wanted to go study drama. And my dad was like, nope, not paying for that. You're not studying drama. Go study something useful that you can use in your life. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I said, okay, I'll go to study law. So I enrolled in law at the same university that was teaching drama. And then we went on the break, we went down and to go look at the place. And it's one of the most prestigious, beautiful universities. But I remember driving in and it was deserted because it was the holiday season. And I remember driving past the building I had been enrolled in, which is like this old, historic kind of building. And I looked at it and I was going, oh no, 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 no. No, I can't do this. Okay. I just looked old and stifled and super quiet. And I was like, there's no ways I'm going to do this. And then my best friend came up from Durban and she was going to this University of Johannesburg at that time called Rao. And she's going, can we come stay at your place? Because it's very close to where this university was that I'd never heard of because obviously it was, family dream that we would go to Stellenbosch. It was just like the university. So I said, yeah, sure, come stay here. And so I went with her the day she checked in. And she was going to do a BA in psychology and communications, which is much more up my alley. But I didn't even think about it. We got in the car and we drove down with her mom and we came over the hill. And I looked over the hill and I saw this building, this ultra modern building in front of me. And my whole stomach got butterflies. I got like butterflies in my stomach. And I just knew I was going to go there. I went, I'm going to go here. And she's like, oh, and I go, no, I know I am. And we went to go check her in. And the only person that didn't show up in her, what do you call it? Where all the students stay,
her
residence,
class? Oh, the
was
dorm?
in her dorm. The only person that didn't show up in that entire dorm was her roommate. And just like that, I dropped that out of the university. I enrolled in this. I ended up studying the communications and psychology, and I stayed in that university. And
Oh
because
my
of that,
gosh.
yeah, my whole life changed because that was in Johannesburg, and Johannesburg at that time had started getting the SABC, and television stations. And because I was a dancer, I automatically was a professional dancer as well. So I started working on all these productions that were on television. And then from there, I ended up into the commercial. Somebody sold me and said, well, why don't you come try out for this commercial? And next minute, somebody sent me on the things, go, why don't you go try out for this, to be this host of the show? And so I became the host of a show.
Really?
And that's how the thing snowballed, because, I really wanted to go study acting, but that's when I met my first husband, and he saw me on TV. I met him there and I came here and I did everything here. Started studying here, did everything from here. I did one or two things. I think I did one movie there before I left. It was so amazing because it was just like, the guy's like, oh, I really like you. I want you to star in this movie. I was like, really? I've never done a movie. He goes, that's okay. I think you're right for the movie. I was like, okay. Didn't even question it. It was like, okay, I did it. And then I did some dancing in some of the movies over there that were American-based productions that were shooting in South Africa. And that's where I really got my feel for the set and being on set. And I thought, oh, I love this. It's like this gypsy lifestyle, bohemian, outdoorsy, indoorsy, all these different types of people. It's very creative. This is really my vibe. Yeah, and that's how I ended up coming to America. Yeah,
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I was literally, saw me on TV and bumped into me the same night he saw me on TV. I had to go open a nightclub hosting the music show I was presenting. And he goes, I just saw you on TV. And I was like, yeah, I was speaking a different language. I was like, nah, you didn't. And he said, yeah, I did. And he described everything. And just like that, next minute, I was in America.
That's insane. So how quick after you'd say you started at the drama school, like how quick do you think all of it happened? Like that you got on TV?
Since I came here. I came here, I immediately, because, obviously once I got here and we got married and everything, I enrolled in a Meisner program for studying acting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I did that. And then I got an agent, but I started doing music videos first. I got a lot of music videos.
I watched one of them. I watched one of them.
Which one?
I watched the Tina Turner one.
Yes, with Jaimin. Yes.
When you're shaving the guy's head in the back.
That's Jaimin Hansu.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, so I ended up doing all these music videos, and then I got an agent, but I was still studying this acting course with this acting teacher, and she was adamant that you're not allowed to go out and do any performances and studied all your craft. It's like being a surgeon without knowing how to operate. And I was like, oh, I didn't think it was that complicated, but okay. So anyway, I got a job. I got a job in a movie. I went into, this guy saw me and sent me in because when I went to register myself at the Screen Actors Guild as an actor, because I was doing commercials, it had the breakdown of all the ethnicities. And I didn't know what Caucasian meant. So I was like, I looked at that and I was like, no, I'm not that. And I saw Hispanic. I was like, no, I'm not that. And so Asian, I know. And then I saw African American. I went, perfect, check. I'm from Africa and now I live in America. So my first audition was, I came into the room and everybody's like, you're white. I'm like, I am. And they go, but SAG has you listed as African American. I go, oh, I am. I'm from Africa and now I live in America. They were on the floor. I mean, I didn't even understand what I did wrong. I just didn't understand what that word Caucasian meant at that time. It was, I was so very new. So anyway, I ended up getting that job and the guy wrote the part for me, but I was in this training course and I was so afraid to ask the teacher because it worked on the day that I was supposed to be in class that I walked away from that job and I won all kinds of awards. And so from that day forward, I'm like, no, I don't let anybody, tell me what I can and can't do. When you already have the job, obviously they hired you because you can do the work, you don't need somebody else's approval. But you see, it's just the way things get presented in a person's head, especially if you're new. That was
because you're listening to people that like are your teachers and people that you're like looking for guidance from. So you're probably like, okay, I guess that's what I should do. I need to learn all of this. And then it's like,
I was like, oh, I guess I shouldn't take this job. So I remember the guy who was managing me at the time was like, are you insane? This is a huge director. I was like, well, I can't. I'm in this acting program. Yeah, no, no, never do that again. I would never. If you get the job, do the job.
Do the
Just
job,
go
yeah.
ahead. You already got the job. They think you're right. Just go do it. Yeah.
So I was the first in the States. There's it's Murphy's Fault, The Endangered, or any of
That
those like
endangered.
ones that you did in LO?
Endangered. No, the Endangered was the movie I did in South Africa. The first
Oh,
movie I did in
okay.
South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only film I did there. And Murphy's Fault. I think that was one of the movies I danced in. I've never seen it. I mean,
Oh.
recently I saw the footage from Gore, like for the first time ever, when we were dancers and that. I actually put a snippet of that on my Instagram. It's like
Oh, I gotta check
wild
that out.
yeah, it's wild to see it all these years later. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Gore. That's when we were doing the dancing shows. So yeah, but yeah, that's
So
that was the only
so what
jobs
would
I
you
did
say your
there.
first like American credit? Like, is it Crime of
Super Force.
Crimes? There were oh,
Oh,
okay. So
yes,
Super Force, the TV series?
yes, and that was an interesting story to that as well. I had the agent, and then I went to audition for Xander Tyler, which is this psychic, right? From could
Mhm.
predict the future and all these things. And so my agent calls me, oh, great, Musetta, you got the job. It's like this recurring character on this TV show. So I say, perfect. When's it working? Oh, it's working this weekend, blah, blah, blah. And I go, which weekend? They go, this weekend. I go, oh, I can't do it. I go, we've got a trip planned to Hawaii. So he goes, what? I go, no, no, we have a whole trip planned to Hawaii. I can't do it. So I was like, oh, just tell him I can't do it. I have to go to Hawaii. So I hung up. So my husband gets home and I go, guess what? That job audition? I got it, but I told them I can't do it because we're going to Hawaii. He goes, are you insane? Call him up and tell him you want the job. I didn't understand. It was like, the process. And so I called them up, my agent. I said, I'm sorry, I guess I want the job. I want to go. So when I arrived in Florida, the people were looking at me, the producer and the director. He's like, so we interrupted a trip to Hawaii. It was funny. It was really
That's
funny.
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you had some really cool early on credits. Like I watched your episode. I always love to watch those series that now obviously there's so much content now. Like there's so many different shows, so many streaming apps. But like back in the day, it seemed like there was like all these drama series that had all these guest stars every week. And it seemed like every time you watch one, whenever I interview folks, there's always so many other people that are such familiar faces. Forgot to
Yeah.
who else was in your episode of Murder She Wrote. But like that episode is that show was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was. It was really, in those days, it was very different than it is right now, like today. In those days, you would go in person, and I think that makes a very big difference
Oh
as to
yeah.
getting a job.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like trying to set up a light and audition from home when you don't have anybody to read with you. You know, you can't put yourself in the right light. When you walk in a room, you can feel the energy of the room. You can gauge the people right away and they can feel you, and it's a whole different thing. So in those days, going out and auditioning in person, which I far prefer to auditioning
Yeah.
on camp at home, which I hate, but yeah, it wasn't hard. It was, it was a good time. It was really a wonderful time. And I think the movie
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Now, that was good that you brought up that point. I've talked to people. It's like the hardest thing I think about auditioning at home is obviously the rapport before like sometimes people, you want to hire somebody because obviously they're good at their craft, but you like them, you enjoy being around them. So you're just seeing like a take that somebody's recording. And I think it's just you're on the spot when you're doing it in front of someone. They could say, oh, can you try it this way or do this line a different way? I totally agree, and I feel like it's gotta be hard for the directors and casting too.
It's so much better to do it in person. It's like, because when you're at home, um, so many factors interfere with it. Like, you don't have the time to do it. There's nobody to read with you. There's dogs barking, the lawnmower is going off next
Yeah,
door.
yeah.
It's like crazy. And when you go into a room, then at least you have the opportunity to everybody's on the same playing field. We all have the same chance, right? But otherwise, some people are like, in studios rehearsing for weeks. They have people who stay with them and train them. For me, it's like just let me have an opportunity to go into the room. Me shake your hand, meet me, tell me what you want me to do. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because otherwise when you watch your own performance, you go, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. And you re-record yourself many, many
Oh
times.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're watching your playback and go, oh, I don't like the lighting. Oh, I don't like the way that sounds. Oh, I don't like that angle. Oh, I hate the way I look. So it's much easier just going in there, doing your job and auditioning in person.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But
Yeah.
so one really funky credit, and I think it's such a cool movie because of how different it was and how silly it was. And I talked to Sam Irvin, was Oblivion.
Yeah.
And Oblivion
Yes.
too. Wow. Your character is awesome. Like that such a different thing to take on that kind of role and be like this evil villain?
I love that character, Lash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, when I auditioned for the role, I just loved it. I think it came also because of my dance background. I knew I could embody her. She's very like in your face, like
Yeah.
villain. Um, when I got the job, it was so exciting because they had already been gone to Romania to go shoot, and I had to come get all the wardrobe here. I remember going down West Hollywood and getting the chaps and the things and the this and the trading with my whip in the middle of the park in West Hollywood with the guy who trained Michelle Pfeiffer from Catwoman, and she's like,
So that is true. That is true. That was like an IMDb fact, and sometimes
yeah,
that's not like that's really
no,
awesome that you did
no,
that.
no, yeah. He brought it. We would go to the West Hollywood Park here, and we would have this. I can't remember. It was 6 or 8 foot whip, and he would train me with. I'm saying, imagine driving by and there's some girl and a guy with whips in the middle of the park. You know what I mean? And, it cracks the sound barrier when they would go "Chow." Everybody's like, "What's happening?" So yeah, it was a fantastic time, and I just loved it. And so when I got the character, my hair at that point wasn't black, but I looked at her and Sam and them were already in Romania. So I thought, no, I'm going to make Lash like a Betty Page. I'm going to make her hair jet black and cut the bangs. And I remember arriving on set and he goes, your hair's black. I go, I know, don't you like it? Because you're going to have to now.
I loved it. I love that character and just the one-liners. I think that's like an era of like full moon movies that I really enjoy. And I think Sam is silly, and I love the fact that he was like, why if you're gonna have like Catwoman, you're gonna have to have all these puns added in, and if you're gonna have George Takai, and you have like that line that's like it's like really like beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Like it's just really it's great. Like, and both of them are so good. Like when I talked to him, we covered the second one, and it was just so much fun. Just the setting of it, and then Sam talked about, and I'm sure he's voiced this to you before, that a few years later, that movie was sort of like made with Wild Wild West and like your character.
That's so funny. I didn't even ever think of that because when I ended up doing Wild Wild West, it was, I mean, these characters have a lot of similarity in them, from the Mortal Kombat to Lash to the Wild Wild West character. But, originally I auditioned for a different role in that, and then I ended up playing Munitia. So, but still it was great, the opportunities and working in the movies. When you're working in movies like that, compared to like when we were doing Lash, which was in Romania, and it was during the fall of Ceausescu, and there was like, the buildings had bullet holes, like cannon holes in the walls. It was hard to get food. It was really, the people the homes were removed, and they were living in these abandoned buildings. It was terrible. It was really bad. That whole Ceausescu's palace was still standing, but all the buildings leading down to it just like bombed. And I remember it being tricky to get food and stuff like that. But the people were wonderful. The people were wonderful. Yeah. So,
man, that's
it's but who knows, But yeah, that's that movie. It was great. Romania, and then going up to the border of Russia. These experiences you can never replace. It was such unbelievable time. I've done like 3 movies in Romania.
Yeah.
And but the first one with Lash, because we built that set. Well, that set was built there. That whole studio was built there, specifically for that movie. And Yeah, what a wonderful
And it got used
experience
quite
that
a bit
was.
because I forgot what
Yeah.
movie Sam said. There's a movie and they didn't
With Nicole
remove.
Kidman.
It was in with Nicole Kidman, and
Yeah, I
I,
think
I don't know if it was that one, but it had her bar. What was her name? Was it Miss Kitty's? Was the name
Miss
of the
Kitty's
bar
bar.
Miss Kitty's? Yeah.
Saloon. Yeah, yeah. So all these things still were, I mean, it was wild. You would, because they had so many dogs in Romania. They never, dogs were running around the streets freely everywhere. So you'd be in the middle of a take, and like in the saloon doors will fly open, and the bad guy would walk in or out, and the dogs would come running in. Who's got the dog? Get the dog wrangler. We're supposed to be
Oh my
cowboys and
God.
aliens. Yeah. Yeah, it was really funny.
Oh,
And we
man.
worked from the summertime into the snow. There was one scene we did where it was quiet on set. You could literally hear the rats going, trying to chew from the outside where it was freezing to get inside.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so cool. You have
lots of
all those great
interesting.
memories from that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then obviously your diagnosis murder, Highlander, Buffy. So that's like the one thing. It's all about. I think it's such a momentum game. It's like once you're working, it's like other people see you working, like people that are casting, directing other actors, and it's just like it keeps it rolling. Is there a role that you think in your career or something that you did that it was like that was such a big deal for you to get more roles?
Look, I think that representation is really important.
Yeah.
Representation is the most important thing. I think there are a lot of very talented actors out there. Yeah, you have to be able to deliver the chops when it's your turn. You have to
Mhm.
be well prepared. But if you can't get in the door to do the audition, you know what I mean? Then you don't even have
Yeah.
a shot.
At
So
all, yeah.
that's very important. That's almost, to me, more important than anything else, because your representation really dictates what interviews you're going to get. Getting the job is not so hard, I
Yeah.
think, once you're in there,
It's
if you're
just
right for the
getting that
role.
opportunity to
You
try to get the
Yeah.
job.
So there's all these people, we all write for the role, and one of us are going to get it or not, right? But getting that opportunity, that's the hard part. And that's key to anything. I think when I came here, because I had a very strong accent at that time, I was immediately put into that kind of genre for
Oh,
sci-fi.
yeah.
Yeah, which kind of how I built momentum into that area. There was a lot of, I think once I booked Mortal Kombat, which was a big movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, once
Huge
you
movie. I
bid,
talked to Brian Thompson and I talked to Margine
I
Holden.
love Brian and Marcin. Yes, I love them
Yeah.
both. I still talk to Marcin every now and then.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that once you do a movie like that, that's really mainstream, then, or you do mainstream TV, then yeah, it does start snowballing. You get opportunities for other jobs easier. It's getting over that first break. It's either good when you brand new and you have great representation, who's seen you, who can put you into the audition, and you book that first job. And then if you do well, and they go, oh, let's bring her in, let's see her. You but I auditioned for everything, pretty much everything. It was
Yeah.
never like handed to me on a platter. Like my first movie, here, I'd like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
star in
now
this
that one,
movie.
yeah.
I was like,
Now, and then you're
really?
like, wow,
Okay.
is acting always like this? Isn't this
Yeah.
easy?
Yeah. In the beginning, it's like a naivete. You just don't really understand how unbelievably challenging it can be, right? It's like it can
Yeah.
be. It's a really dog eat dog world out there.
It's the hardest job. That's why I
The
love
hardest
talking
job.
to people in the industry because it's like uh, to like stay at it. It's a
Yeah.
difficult thing, You look
Yeah.
at any actors and it's just like it could just be like you said, the representation or just not getting the right auditions or things like that. But no, it's definitely tough. But I can see
You
from
gotta
Mortal Kombat,
love
like
the
you said,
arts.
you
Yeah.
have to. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You have to be an artist. You can't, it's not something you can fake. For me, there was a lot of things that I was like, if I didn't feel I wanted to do it, I just wouldn't do it. I had
Yeah.
to love what I was doing. And for me, it wasn't always about, the fame or the fortune or the size of me. Of course, everybody wants to have the
Mhm.
great roles. Getting the great roles, it's very hard to get into that bracket so you can get a chance to audition for that. So sometimes I've been in situations where auditioned for a movie that was a go, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're perfect. We can't wait to have you. Handshake deal. Welcome aboard." And then you never hear from them again. Like the whole movie
Or the
falls
movie,
apart.
the movie falls through,
The whole
and
movie,
that.
the whole movie falls apart, or
Yeah,
or they just change the entire part, and you never see. Or they never even tell you. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's like, so for me personally, I will go into the room, I'll do my very best, and then the second I walk out of there, I just don't think about it again. That's it. I can't. I don't want to mull it over in my head over and over. I've been there where I've done that, and it just takes a
yeah.
toll on you. And I'm just like, I'm not doing that. I go in, I do my best. If you like me, fantastic. I'd love to do this job. And, if you don't, then okay, great. Moving on. Next,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
So real quick about Wild Wild West, that must have been I remember that just having such a monster budget and having
Yeah.
like such a crazy release, because I feel like because I was 13, 14 at the time, and it felt like every like commercial, was it the toys, at like the fast food places, was it such a big deal like working on it? Did you feel like, wow, this is like, there's a lot going into this?
Oh, yeah. There was a
Yeah.
$130 million budget, if I remember correctly. And yes, every single detail was noted. I mean, the costuming alone was extraordinary. Just making all those corsets and the hair and the shoes, it was all handmade for every single person from scratch. Nothing was pulled from like stock room. Every single costume you see there, every single set design was built from scratch. I mean, they even grew a cornfield to and that train was brought from some museum in the Midwest for that shot where I get off and I launch that thing that decapitates Will and then tries to
Yeah.
decapitate them. Yeah, that
Yeah.
cornfield was built a year before that scene was shot. Yeah, that's how far ahead they were thinking of all of those things. And even at that time, like the CGI that were doing at that time was also already more advanced, because I remember being on a platform where I was, doing green screen with all the motion capture buttons on, where they would spin you around and pretty much take an entire grid of your body and create
Wow.
your character. So for whatever they were using it, I don't know what they were using it for actually, but I think it's from where I was fall off the spider at the end or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but they took a whole 3D
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
scan
99
of
they
your
were doing
body.
that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy how quick that
yeah.
evolved. Like, everybody thinks of like Jurassic Park, because that was like, it's kind of like the bellwether, like how
Mhm,
great that looked and how
mhm.
they made that movie, and people just thinking about the dinosaurs when they're only in it for like 12 minutes or 13 minutes, which is insane when you think about it. But 5, 6 years later, you're doing like motion capture. That's like,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it started when I was doing Buffy, because that's when the
Yeah.
first it wasn't as advanced as it got to when by the time Wild Wild West was happening, but they started with that kind of, because that's when the head had to turn and all that kind of stuff. But and there was a
That
lot of
show is
special
one I
effects on
bet
that.
you that a lot of people, that show has definitely a like a allegiance. Buffy,
Yeah,
I feel like sci-fi genre is that, right?
huge,
Yeah.
huge loyal fan base. Well, I think it appeals to many people because um, I think we all always live in this kind of fantasy
Mhm.
some way, thinking about what else could there be out there in the universe,
Mhm.
other planets, other characters, I don't know, creatures. So I think that's why they have done so well, for so many years. And it's fascinating. It just takes your imagination to like another level.
Yeah, because if you're watching like a sitcom or even if it's like a comedy, it can obviously make you laugh, but then you're like, wow, these people are, this isn't escaping. I'm just thinking about other people doing these fun things. At least with sci-fi, you're right. Like you could like everybody imagines themselves like doing those things as a kid. So it's like
Yeah,
I always think so many things. Like I have 2 kids now, and they're watching like Muppet Babies, and they're Gonzo's looking into seeing like outer space, and it's like, wow, that's like
yeah,
crazy that you almost forget about that as an adult. Like you used to sit there and like pretend there was like ninjas in the backyard or like these silly concepts. But yeah, I think you nailed it with the sci-fi genre. I feel like that's definitely why people gravitate toward.
yeah. Also, and even like right now, I think tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to the Xena's 30th convention reunion, 30-year, which is
Wow.
insane. And it's still
Yeah.
going, and it's still popular, and it's still moving. And there's so many people that go to this. It just never dies. I think movies and TV have such a way to influence people. I think for me, like, because I didn't grow up with TV, we would often lie out in the fields and look at the stars and imagine who's living on that star and where's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
star
Yeah.
that's shooting over there going and who's hiding in the moon. That's kind of how my mind worked. So when you get to, I think today kids get everything on TV, on their phone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a different world. So they've they don't look to those skies so much anymore, which I think there should be like a blackout of technology for like the
Oh, I
first
know. We
couple of
make our kids
years.
do all that stuff. Like we camp outside in our yard
Oh,
and it's like,
lovely. Yeah.
yeah, because it has to be, you have to just
Yeah.
be used to being bored. That's one thing
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing with kids, because the instant gratification of like, oh, what do I want to watch? And then you can get it right away.
Yeah.
Which I know the convenience of that is really cool. If I said like, oh, I want to watch this movie from like 1995, that
Yeah.
it'd be really cool. And I don't have to drive to a place to rent it. So the process of it is that is convenience, but then it's not like the old, like, whatever's on or whatever's going on in the neighborhood. That's what I'm doing. That's my
Yeah.
choice.
No, look, it's like a double-edged sword. It's fantastic. I
Totally.
love technology. I love the AI. I love all of that. You have to keep up with that. It's moving at
You have
such
to,
a
yeah.
rapid pace. Yeah. And it's wonderful. It's very stimulating in many ways. But I also think that if your imagination can even transcend that, you can go beyond that. You can, whatever you can think of, you can create. The
Yeah.
human being has an incredible capacity to do something like that.
Yeah. AI definitely helps in very mundane tasks, like work-wise, which is really fascinating. Like how quick it can,
So
hey, look up this
quick.
thing. And it does such a better job than a Google search. Like you can Google the same topic or ask AI the same topic, and it gives you like really, it's like, oh my God, thank you.
So good. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
good. The other day, somebody asked me, I said, "Oh, can you please write something for me for this, from that, on this subject?" And I was like, "Okay." And then I just thought, well, somebody said, "Why don't you use ChatGPT?" I said, "Okay." I went to ChatGPT, write to me a paragraph about X, Y, and Z. And boom, as fast as I'm typing and I hit send, it's already coming back
Yeah.
with beautiful, like unbelievable descriptions. And I'm like, it's so fast.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely something that, yeah, it's definitely if it's used the right way, like if it's used the right way, if it's not used to
Yeah.
take a lot of jobs. I know there's some mundane jobs that it might be able to like do something, which is kind of sad, but I would just hope it's not going to take like, it's like, hey, 1 week's worth. And it's like, it's like, oh, we don't have to pay
Yeah.
that guy 100 grand anymore, which might
Yeah,
happen.
it's like I do a lot of editing. I love editing. I find it very creative, so I do a lot of editing. And my friend's like, she's very into the AI and technology. She's like, "Oh, you should just put it into the AI; it'll edit it through you." I go, "Okay, I don't know which AI does, but I'm sure they could. But what the AI can't do is it can't feel what a human emotion is. It can suspect it. It doesn't know when to just cut out of that moment and how to build a song that, I mean, I might be totally wrong, that can put the right feeling underneath of it, because
Mhm.
timing is you can make or break a performance in the editing room. Definitely. You can absolutely destroy a performance in the editing room or
Yeah.
or enhance it significantly by knowing when to cut, when to get out, what music to put under it. I mean, if you really want to see a great performance, turn the sound off on your TV and watch the performance. Take
Yeah.
all the sound out and then watch it and see if you are moved emotionally. You'll find that when they
That's
turn the music
interesting.
off,
Yeah.
you feel nothing.
Yeah. It's
Person
all a
stand
marriage. Everything has to work. I think
Yeah.
that's so cool about that. That's what I've learned so much from, like, obviously watching movies, but interviewing people, just
Mhm.
like how much goes into it. Like you see a character walk onto a screen, you can play different music and you'll feel different about that person. You look at their coat. If their coat is like very nice, looks brand new, you'll think a certain way. There's a little rip in it. You're like, oh, they don't have money, or they're like rough. And it's like so cool how much can be told without a word. It's
No, totally.
fascinating.
Totally. I mean, if you could standing out and you're looking out over the horizon, just like, and depending on what music you put on there, if you put really sad music on, it's old. Or you could put like really like driving music, like you're thinking I'm gonna get you. You know,
Yeah.
because I edit and I was a teacher acting, right? So I always tell my students, if you really want to watch a performance, turn the sound down, because
That's cool.
emotions are universal. Doesn't matter what language you speak or where you come from. We all have the same emotions, right? Fear, anger, love, hate, whatever, right? You all have these different emotions. When you're performing, that should be translating through to the screen, no matter what you're doing and what language you're speaking in. I think that's the essence of acting. It's making you identifiable. So even if I'm watching you and I don't understand what you're saying, I can tell when I look at you how you're feeling.
Is that an exercise you do in class? Do you have them do like a silent scene or anything like that?
That's what I give them for homework. I mean, yeah, then would have
Okay.
to bring in cameras. I do on camera sometime as well, so that people can see themselves on camera, because when we do audition technique and stuff like that, that's real important. But
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, that's kind of what you have to go do with your homework. When you have a lot of people in
Yeah.
class, I can't sit there and bring a stereo in and do it. That's their homework, to go research and do your part of it, and you'll see.
Yeah. When I did improv when I lived in Portland, one thing my teacher, coach, whatever you want to call it, we used to do scenes and you didn't say words. You would just count. And it was pretty insane how you could really convey a scene just instead of saying like the word, you would just be like, it's weird. You could say you could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like in a different way. Be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it was just, you did that until you got to the end. And then the other person would start from 1 again and just keep going. But it was like so weird when you were in it. And then when you're watching people, you're like, wow, I like kind of feel everything
Yeah,
that's
it's
going
the
on. And I
intention
don't even
behind
need to
it.
hear a real word.
Right. It's all about the intention behind things, sending that energy out.
When did you start teaching? Really? What was that? Was it just you got to the point that you were like, I want to give back? Like,
No. Phew, why did I say? Well, ex-husband started teaching, and I think I've always been I grew up with a mother who was a ballet teacher. So teaching was
okay.
teaching was in my, I love learning. I'm always learning. I'm always learning something new. If it's not in acting, it's in healing, it's in whatever. My mind has to be mentally stimulated. And I find that when you teach, you learn even more
Oh
than when you
yeah.
perform.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really see why someone will get a job over somebody else. Some people intuitively get it. They can just walk in, like a little kid like this big will walk in, and they can pick up the paper like that, and they have the emotion. They're fully there because their imagination is so into that. They're like
Yeah.
crying or laughing or whatever it needs. They're right there. And then other kids don't have that, and it takes time to break through that, whatever history that caused them to kind of disassociate from really getting in the emotions back in line. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting. I think when you teach, you learn a lot about people. 'Cause I teach from kids all the way to adults, and I like to be able to share my experiences with people. If they get something from it, wonderful. Everybody has a teacher they like. You always gravitate to a teacher who has the energy that you would like to learn from. Some people
Yeah.
like a very, very subdued, calm teacher. Some people like teacher that says, "Get up there and do it again."
Yeah.
I'm that one. Fix this.
But I think you nailed it to say that. But sometimes when you're teaching somebody something, because if you could teach it and they understand it, then it reinforces like learning and
Yeah.
and I never thought of like, oh, this is I'm sort of good at this thing. And it was like you're teaching them and they're doing, oh, make sure you turn your back to the target and they're doing everything and you're like, okay, this is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And it like just reinforces your skills that you're telling them to do. You're like, oh, I gotta do that. Like you're almost like
Yeah.
teaching yourself at the same time.
I don't know where the saying came from. You can do so you teach. I think whoever came up with
I know
that
that's
saying,
ridiculous.
it's
I know.
ridiculous. They should have their heads slapped. But
Yeah.
I think that when you have experience in the field, whatever your experience, even if you're a chef, okay, and you're teaching somebody else how to cook, of course you're going to be better than doing it from a cookbook. You got the guy there who's done it and he's burnt his
Mhm.
I don't know, flambe or whatever, it's hands-on experience. Whether that's the good, whether he's the 5-star Michelin chef or just a regular guy down the, he understands that. He's been through it. He's been through the emotions. He's been out there. Also what I also can share with people is all the emotions that you go through from when you get the job or when you're on set, and all the opinions everybody will have about you on the internet, and how not to take things personally. These are not things you can learn. How do you teach that to somebody if you've never experienced it?
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. Those tools you have to use. And even if you never wanted to become an actor, a lot of kids come to class who maybe don't want to be an actor. The parents might enroll them because they're shy or, want to help to have more confidence. Sometimes I get heads of companies who want to be confident in their speech on stage and, to
Yeah.
teach them to have confidence in that. So you use this tool for the rest of your life. Every day you're really performing. And Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And it
So
is.
have you had any students that went on to?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
many students. Yeah, you
That's
can
awesome.
look them up. There's many students who've gone on. One has won an Emmy, and there's many
That's
students who've
awesome.
done. Yeah,
That's really
but it's
cool.
not. I never really. It never really comes up when I interview with people. I don't know why.
No, I
But
was just thinking because when you're even like, it's so crazy when you think about like the Meisner, like how many people were in that class when you took that? What is it,
a
12
lot.
or 16? Oh, it was a
No, there
lot
were
of
a lot of
people?
my class was a lot. And
Okay.
when I studied, yeah, there was probably 30.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But I'm trying to think who's the other one there? Meisner, what's that, Ledler, or it sounds like that. But anyway, they were in New York City. But
Mhm.
I I forgot who I was talking to, but it was like, yeah, they only take 12 people and like 100 audition. And I'm like thinking in my head, like, wow, you have Broadway, you have all these other people like at NYU, and it's like of those 12 people, I was like, did anybody else? And they're like, no, a lot of people didn't do it afterwards. It's like, wow, like the
Yeah.
best 12 out of it. It's one of those things, like you said earlier, and I think you nailed it. Like, you have to like love this
Yeah.
because it's not easy. And those classes, from what I've heard from people, is like, while you're in there, you're probably like, what am I doing? Like, pretend we're gonna pretend to sleep for 30 minutes. Or they do like these different funky exercises.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And it's like, probably some people are like, this is stupid. Other people are like, you know what? I'm gonna have to use this one day. And
Well,
then they come around and help you.
I think everybody has their how they want to learn. You get
Yeah.
actors who've never studied who are brilliant. They just never had in. And in some ways that they kind of raw and unspoiled. When you get into your head all these rules, it's like me walking away from that job I got the very first time because I thought, oh
Hmm.
my God, I'm not ready. I'll be like a surgeon without
Yeah.
operating, without knowing how to do surgery.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know. So no, some people are naturally gifted. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
was me. I'm just saying some people have a natural talent. They
Well, you
just
definitely
it's
were
not.
naturally gifted because you were doing stuff like, I know you obviously started school, but it was pretty soon after that you were actually being in front of people and acting.
Yeah, well, yeah, but again, it's like I was from birth pretty much in a studio.
Yeah, yeah.
My crib was at the foot of the piano that my grandmother played while the dance classes happened.
That's
So I
amazing.
was, and we would do these big performances and musicals and pantomimes, and I would constantly be, seeing all of that from little girl. I mean, 4 years old, I was on stage. And in those days, doing those kind of performances, it required a lot of physical acting. It wasn't just dancing. You were like,
Yeah.
I remember I was like a bear and I was a lion and I was all these different characters, So, yeah, I did the ballet as well, but it was more like I played a
Yeah.
lot of characters. And I think that made a difference. Sometimes that really brings in a different aspect and have that nuance of that subtlety of something different about the person, and that comes. I
Yeah.
think any dancer is will be very good with something like that because you use your whole body. Your body's your instrument, right? So your body, if you've used it since you were a child, you can take on. If they say you're like an old hunchback old woman, it's easy to go into that body posture, or you're a regal princess. It's all ballet stuff,
Yeah.
And then you'd, of course, better do the acting on top of that. And the wardrobe feeds everything, and the makeup and the wardrobe.
That's That's awesome. I think it's so cool just the way you grew up. Well, what's like one thing that is there some kind of like food or snack or something that you miss the most that is like just a South African thing?
Yeah, there is. They have some South African food places here in LA
Yeah,
where you
that's
can
good.
go. Yeah, you can go get like the drivors, which is like a dried sausage, or biltong, which is jerky. But the thing I used to love, in every time I go to South Africa, I have it, is milk tart, which is kind of a tart that's I can't
Okay.
explain it. It's white and it's milky and it just tastes. It's very light and it's pudding like. So I I like that, and rusks. We have a thing called rusks, which is like it's really like a clump of dough that's hardened, but it's got like muesli in it and nuts. It's like when the people came with the ox wagon and traveled across the pioneers in the old day. They had the jerky and they had the rusks, and then you dip it into your coffee, and then it gets all soft, and then you eat it. It's like a flavored bread. It's really hard and dry, and yeah, rusks. They have them here in boxes, but you must make it from scratch because it's delicious. I love it. When you're a
That's
kid, it's like,
cool.
yeah, because it's easy to put in our backpacks when we go camping. Give me the rusks, the jerky. Going
All
right.
handheld, easy to eat food. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's like that's how it had to be, and then just
yeah.
stuck the nomadic way of we're always on the
Mhm.
move. What can we eat while we're moving?
Yeah, they were moving an ox wagon across the country, and
Yeah,
it's like same as here, right? You got your ox, you gotta have food that's gonna last. There's no fridge or anything to put anything. You got your jerky, you got your dried rusks, you know. You should
you're
look at a
good.
rusk. Yeah, you're good to
Yeah, yeah.
go.
Now I gotta look that up. That's cool.
Yeah, they even make coffee. They used to do coffee. They call it moeder coffee, and it's a coffee. So when you make a coffee, then you take a stick that was in the flames. So it's like burnt, okay, and you get the actual if you shaked it, and then you stir your coffee with the burnt wooden stick. That's like got that smoky flavor from burning the wood. So the coffee gets this kind of a smoked coffee flavor.
That sounds really good.
I haven't tried it since I'm an adult, but used to when you sit around the campfire, you would take your mood coffee and you stick the burned stick of wood in there, Yeah. Just to give it a different flavor, just give it a little bit of a more
That
smoky
is
flavor.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories from different, even in the United States, like hearing how people grew up. Because the way I grew up is different than somebody in Iowa or Oregon.
Sure.
That's so many different like subcultures. Even though that's one country, but it's always cool to talk to folks from other countries. Wow, this has been so much fun. Obviously, we can't cover like all your
No, sure.
credits, and I wouldn't want to do that. I like hearing more about like the beginnings and influences and stuff. But I think one movie that you're in, I think is such an underrated, like family kids movie is Kicking and Screaming. That movie,
Yeah.
like before I had kids, I loved that movie.
That movie, it changed completely when I
Really?
first did. Oh yeah, that movie was very different before. It wasn't a movie about soccer as much. It was more about rivalry between father and son because Robert Duvall's, he would have the wife that's like either the same age or like younger than his son, and or very competitive father-son relationship. But then the movie they changed it a lot. They changed that movie a lot. And when I saw the movie, I was like, wow, so much has changed, and a lot of stuff was removed from the movie completely. I remember
Well, you're
sitting in
saying it changed so much from filming.
yeah,
Wow, that's a shocker. I thought you were gonna say like
yeah.
the first script you got, it was this type of
Mm-mm.
story. You go to film. Wow, what were some of the scenes that you remember that like were memorable that didn't
Well,
make it in the movie?
there are many characters that aren't in the movie. And when I was reading the
Really?
script, they're not there anymore, and I had significantly more scenes in the movie than what you see. Just they're just gone. Like
Yeah.
you go to the premiere and you're like, I remember doing the press line on the premiere, and we were talking about the movie, and they were asking me questions. I was talking about the scene. They go, "Have you seen the movie?" And I was like, "No, have you?" They go, "Mm-hmm." And I was like, "Weird question."
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So I mean, the first time you find out that, oh my gosh, that scene's not even in the movie that I'm talking about, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that
That's a
that
tough
was
thing.
like,
Like being a director as and an editor has to be like a tough job for doing that. And I know they couldn't like reach out to all the actors, but if somebody has like a totally different thing and things get cut down, that's like it'd be nice to give folks a heads up. I talked to an actor that his whole scene was cut from the movie, and they invited him to
yeah.
the premiere, and he brought a date.
No, I know. No,
That's
that happens all the
terrible.
time. No, I mean, look, this was a big movie, right? So they tested this movie a lot, and they were
Yeah.
doing screen testings of the movie, and they look at what market is it going to hit more, and I guess what would be more successful. It's all about their ROI, the return on
Oh,
investment. Okay,
yeah, I know.
how much money is this movie going to make? If we do it about a father son rivalry, is it going to make as much money as if we do it about a bunch of kids playing soccer? Right? Soccer, which is huge, much bigger audience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were just chunks of people that were just gone from the movie. And even my own performance, when I sat there, I was like, and I had all this footage with Duvall, which is like epic. I mean, it took me, they looked for like 3 months to get that character. And then the story behind that is also so weird because I remember I was doing a movie in Romania at the time. And my manager said, Musetta, they're looking for this girl to play opposite Robert Duvall. Why don't you audition for it? I was like, they're going to hire some huge name for it. They're never going to hire me. He said, please just put yourself on camera and just audition for it. I said, okay, fine. And I had a little video camera. That's back in the days of like the VHS, put your VHS tape. So I went in and because I was in between shooting, I can't remember which movie I was shooting. So I went in to try and film it. And I went into my closet in my hotel room. My camera's gone. Well, something was stolen. Somebody had stolen my camera, and I'm like, so I phoned my manager again. I'm so sorry. My camera has been stolen. It's obviously I'm not meant to do it, so I'm going to South Africa from there. So I go to South Africa, and he calls me again. He said, please try and get yourself on camera for this thing. You still haven't found the girl. And I said, well, I'm on holiday with my parents. It's kind of like my Hawaii trip. I'm on holiday with my parents. And, yes, okay, if I have time, I'll try and put myself on camera. I can't remember what happened, but I never ended up. I didn't have video cameras. You're with your family, you're traveling on a vacation. What am I going to do? My brother's going to read off camera with me. So anyway, so I'm like, nah, I'm not even going to do it. Then I came back to LA and they still haven't found the person. And now 3 months had passed. And he goes, they still haven't found the person. You have to go on this audition. And I was like, okay, all right. And I remember I got the material and I kind of looked at it like, okay, well, I mean, they're going to give it to a huge star and then it's never going to give it to like me. Anyway, so look at it, okay. And I went to lunch with a friend, which normally if I go to audition, I'm like super prepared, but I was so convinced that they would never give it to me in any case that I kind of went to lunch with my friend and said, oh, listen, I'm going to this audition. I said, can't you just read these lines with me? We ran the lines a few times. And then I went to the audition. I remember sitting out in the room and I'm always like very destined kind of oriented. I always see a sign or something. And I saw this poster on the wall. And I was like, huh, how interesting. And suddenly I was like, wow, because I know if I see signs, I don't see things randomly. I'm very like intuitive in that way. And next minute they called my name. I said, oh, okay. And I walked in and the whole room, everybody was there. The director, the casting, the producers, everybody was there.
Wow.
And they were like, and that was unusual in itself. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And they go, hi, Musetta, so nice to meet you. Are you ready? And I was like, I was born ready. Let's do this. And I was like thinking, and so I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't even know my lines. And they handed me like a salad bowl because I had to do the scene in the kitchen where I'm talking to Kate Walsh and we're making salad. That movie's not even in the scene. And we're talking about our husbands and comparing notes. And I remember just putting the salad bowl on my table, on my lap like this, thinking, oh my gosh. And I had the paper next to me. And I was like, just making salad and looking at my paper going, right, that's so right. That's so true. It's just winging it. Truest. And I booked the job.
Oh my God.
You see, because I think I was fearless about it. It didn't even, my brain, the only moment I had that moment, I looked at that poster and I can't remember what was written on that poster, but it was like a message from the universe to me going, pay attention. And then literally the next minute, like, are you ready, Musetta? And I was like, yep. And in that moment,
it was that important of a role that all those people were there.
Yeah, they had
like you
been
said, it took so long to find someone for that role.
They had been looking for a very long time for that role. for that person. I don't know why or what it was, but I'm very thankful for it. It was
Yeah.
clearly meant to be, but that's why I'm so disappointed that I don't have the footage, like that scene,
That's
that
what I was going to ask
audition.
you. Do you get access? Do you ever get access to
I
that?
asked. I asked. I remember after the premiere, I was kind of upset because I was like, I really wanted this footage. I mean, I'm still in the movie, but I'm like saying a few lines here and a few lines there. Right? My
Yeah.
scenes, And I remember asking. I remember going to the director. I said, I wish somebody said to me that this is going to be chopped. I would have loved just the footage. He goes, oh, I wish you'd contacted me because it's already gone to the vault. And I'm like, vault? I don't know. If Warner
Oh,
Brothers has a vault where they store things. But you as an actor, I don't even have what I'm going to call the director at home going, hey, remember me? Can I have my
yeah, yeah,
footage before you don't do that, right? You
yeah.
don't do that. So, yeah, maybe one day that vault will emerge and I can get a scene
Yeah,
from
and maybe
there.
they do like a 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary and put it
Yeah,
on
but the
there or
movie
something.
really changed. The story
That's
wouldn't.
crazy.
Yeah, it was very different. They had soccer in
Yeah.
there, but it was more about the relationships.
Well, I think it's it's such a funny movie because Will Ferrell obviously did kid stuff at that point because Elf came out the year
Yeah.
before or 2 years before. But when they're camping in the backyard and my daughter watched it and that scene like killed her when he was like, okay, guys, are we gonna eat Beyond Yon or whatever the kid's name is? I forgot. It was like Beyond Yon, and he was just like he was so small and he put his head down. And the kid from Even Stevens, who was on the Disney show, who was like the really silly kid of the group of the soccer team,
Yeah.
who like looked like an adult. Oh my god, that kid was so funny in that movie. It was good. It was good.
It was a great movie, and the kids were wonderful. Everybody was great in the movie. I mean, it's just as an actor when you're working, you want whole idea is to have that footage. And there's so many movies I've done that I've never been able to get the footage of.
Yeah.
It's just yeah, you just can't get footage. I call them and, oh no, we don't have the footage. We can't release the footage. Oh, the movie is this and the movie is that. And then you're gonna wait for years go by before it gets into the, like where it's distributed and you can find it on the internet somewhere. And by that
Yeah.
time I'm like, years have gone by. I don't care about the footage anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
But
to
you always
see in
want
the movie. Like I've talked
yeah.
to actors that it was a movie with like DB Sweeney. I forgot. It was in 1988. They filmed it in Ireland about three brothers. And the guy who was like the one producer, just like they ran out of money. They never wanted to release it. And like still to this day, he's trying to get the movie. Like, and I'm like, wow, that's like he's like, man, that's like 4 months of my life. And that was like
Yeah,
it was
this
like a 3-person movie. Like there was obviously other characters, but he's like it was mostly just about our relationship. And when it doesn't, when you don't get to actually see it, like I think a Catwoman, or no, it was a Batgirl, the one that Warner Brothers shelved recently. And it's like you got to think just anyone in that movie that hurts, but you are a star in like a superhero movie, and nobody's gonna see this. There's
yeah, I
photos,
know.
but nobody's gonna see the movie, and to me, that's insane.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
I think that it is a business. It's called the
Mhm,
entertainment business for a reason, and I think
mhm.
emphasis is on business. And if they feel that they're not going to make any money from this, or it's going to cost them more money to send that movie out there into the markets, because it costs a lot of money, and also to pay
Yeah,
for all the talent. But studios have a lot of money. It's the independent filmmakers that you know. It's harder for them. Sometimes their money falls through right
yeah.
in the 11th hour. Takes years to get a movie made. I think Forrest Gump took 20 years to get made.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there are movies
Even
like that
Severance. Severance was a script that was written like 20 years ago, and then it was in a pile at Ben Stiller's like production company or whatever, and then
mm,
just somebody read it and said, "Oh, I think you should read this, Ben." Like
yeah.
the college kids. And then yeah, no, it's crazy how long it could take to get made. Hey, how is Mike Ditka? Like, obviously, growing up in South Africa, it's not like you're watching Chicago Bears or anything, but how is he? Because he seems like such a presence, like even
Oh,
through
he
the
is.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's larger than life. He's like, I didn't even really know who he was,
I'm
in the
sure that's what I
beginning.
mean. Yeah. Why would
Yeah.
you really? Yeah.
Yeah. But of course you find out, but he's like everything about him is just like, hey, I'm here
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm the leader. He was great. He was hilarious. What I liked about him, he was very direct. And he would, like, a lot of people were afraid when you work in a movie like that, people are afraid to speak up because it's big money and nobody wants to say what they really think or feel, especially when they're working with big stars. Nobody will say the truth. Like if somebody messes up a line, nobody will go, "Hey, you messed up your line," because you're dealing with a huge
Yeah.
star.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ditka, he, he didn't care who you were. Hey, you messed up your line. It was hilarious. He had the
Oh,
he had the
that's
crew
great.
he had the crew in stitches because he would just come out and say it like it is, and everybody's like, "Thank you." You know what I mean? Because you can't just come out and say something because you could get fired. That guy, he didn't care. He was just, and I loved that. I was like,
That's
yes,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. He's really,
It's like
really
Mr.
cool.
Robert Duvall, like 40-year veteran Hollywood, phenomenal actor, and you have
Mhm.
Mike Ditka in a
Yeah.
scene. I think that's great.
Yeah, Mike Ditka is hilarious. I mean, there was one scene in particular that we were shooting, which was when Robert Duvall comes up to the fence to Ditka. When Ditka's busy blowing his leaves and everything like that across the thing, and Robert Duvall had to walk up to this mark, okay, and where the camera was, and then say his lines from there. But he was slightly off his mark when he walked, because when you walk and you can't go look down on the floor where your mark is, you kind of have to go
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So it was always slightly off where the mark was on the one or two takes that he did. Finally, and nobody said anything to him because he's Robert Duvall, right? But we can all
Yeah.
see that he's a little. He needs to be a little this way. And finally, Mike Ditka, "Hey, Duvall, you're not hitting your mark. Move this way." And everybody just started laughing, including Robert Duvall, because it was just
That's
so
awesome.
funny, And that was what
Yeah.
was so nice about it. It was just the pure honesty. It's not like stepping on eggshells around. Just say what you feel, so we know what we're dealing with. Don't just say it like it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about
Man.
him. Yeah.
That is so cool. So,
Mm.
so this has been great. Just a couple more questions. One, I always love to ask folks, like, when you're looking back at your career, do you have, and obviously it's still going on, so that your favorite performance could be on the horizon, but do you have, looking back, like one that while you're doing it, or when you saw yourself on, like on TV or at the theater, that you're like, wow, I really, like, I embodied that character? Is there one that stands out?
I think I think I still have to do the role that I really want to do. I've always wanted to do a period piece. I feel that is a lot more than I can do than the characters that I've played. I've kind
Yeah.
of not had the opportunity to step into the role that I really want to play. Um, I'm sure that'll come. I'm putting it out there, so
Yeah.
if it's in alignment with the universe, it'll come. I think one of the movies, even though I've been lucky enough to work with some really talented people, was when I did "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" because I was a very big fan of the
Oh
Coen
yeah.
brothers.
That's a
It's
great
a
scene
great
too. It's so
and
cool.
yeah, and that was, I mean, it wasn't like I had any dialogue or anything like that, and it was just a seduction scene. It was just the way the movie was in general, the feeling, the
Mhm.
story,
The
the depth of the
color, the way it
character,
looked.
the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of period, and it was everything I've always wanted to play. So for me, that movie was the embodiment of in the direction of where I would like to move with the caliber of work, and characters like that. Um, but anything you do, I think any part you play, there's so many versions. Uh, of humanity, as far as with different emotional backgrounds or obstructions or stories that you can play. The life is colorful. Life is colorful, and I think that when the right movie presents itself, it'll just pop up one day. And then in the meantime, I do whatever comes my way, so that I can work, because I love working, and that's what I also like to teach, and that's why I like to edit, because I literally can create you can create amazing things with editing, like amazing things with editing. I think editing is a very creative tool. It's like having a paintbrush, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Just think
just
about comedies, like the greatest comedies or all films, but like comedies are like, if the timing isn't good, it has to be
yes,
perfect. It can't be like the cut can't be a little too late or a little too early. It really
yeah.
has to be perfect, and it's insane when you think about that.
Yeah, no, and you can fix a lot of things in
Oh
post, you know, and
yeah.
yeah,
Oh
you can
yeah.
fix that timing, or you can enhance
You
that
can do like
performance.
walk and talks more. Like if an actor can't remember a thing for a minute in editing, you can like cut maybe where he messed up the line, switch that to ADR, have him come in do ADR, and then
Yeah,
you could cut all these other things. No, like movies are such a magical process when you really
magical.
think what goes into them, especially now. I talked to a visual effects guy, and he sent me like this reel for this movie he worked on, and it started with the end picture, and then it showed the same scene again. It was only like 3 or 4 seconds with one thing removed that he added in again and again. It was like 7 of them, and it was like the last one. The girl was just at a green screen in the scene. She steps onto a subway train, and she wasn't even on a subway. And I'm like, this is crazy
No,
that they
it's
can do that.
amazing. I
Yeah.
remember watching. I was sitting in the editing room, because I was married to a director for a while, but I remember sitting in the editing room and watching the process. And I remember this one particular actor could not remember the lines. They just couldn't remember their lines. Every time they'd open the door, they'd go, uh, um, uh, and I was like, wow. And then this editor took it and made when the bad guy comes in and opens the door, and they open the door. They took that moment where they were trying to remember the lines, uh, um,
Oh
and
my god.
it made it look like she was so terrified of what's coming at her that she was speechless. Which is like I was like,
That's cool because that's real. Like that
yes,
mistake is a real thing that the person
but
did.
used for a
So
different
then you had
reason.
this, yeah, and then in the movie when you see that, it's like, wow, that looks real because it was.
Does. Yeah, yeah, and it's like a brilliant
That's
moment, and
crazy.
that performance was sculpted in the editing room because the reality is the person's going, uh.
Yeah, yeah. It's like in comedies when they leave in when they do like I don't know if like Will Ferrell did it on that movie, but like a lot of the movies he does, it's like they do like all right another line like when he was working with Adam McKay a lot, it was like all right another line, and even in those, it's fun when they let those second or third takes go in because you can tell the actors are really laughing because they never
Yeah,
heard that before, and
yeah,
it was so ridiculous, and it makes you feel like oh my god this is great like yeah.
yeah. I can imagine what it must have been like to work with Robin Williams. The
Oh,
way
I
he
don't
would,
think it to be possible to be able to not laugh. Like his Mork
or
and
Jim
Mindy
Carrey.
stories. Yeah, like Mork and
Yeah.
Mindy. Like when you were you were on Frasier. Frasier
Uh-huh.
was the live studio audience still. Like,
Yeah,
isn't that crazy when you think about like it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're rehearsing. Then Friday it's like this big thing. Mork and Mindy was like, I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe like Taylor Swift. Like everybody wanted to get that ticket. It was like the hottest ticket in town because he would just do like improv, started doing stand up. All right, we're gonna do a scene now, and then do that for a little bit. Yeah, just
no,
insane.
it's crazy. I mean, that's like that. It's such pressure on those live shows like that,
Oh
because
yeah,
even though you're rehearsing, you have like one take. It's like, okay, ready, cameras rolling, here we go, everybody quiet, action, boom, and it's like,
yeah.
okay, it's me, I'm gonna go, you know.
And
So
Frasier was a
yeah,
hot show at that
oh,
time.
great show.
Obviously, still a lot of shows were doing the live, but that was one. It made the show better when you
Yeah, it
heard
did.
like the authentic laughter and yeah,
Yeah, and it
what a
helps you
phenomenal
when you're
show.
you're sitting there doing your scene, and it's almost like shocking because you suddenly hear people laughing, and you can't look there because it's like, oh, somebody's actually laughing.
Yeah,
So,
it worked.
it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it worked. It's like being on
Yeah.
a stage when you do stage, and then you feel the audience, But yeah,
Oh
I
man,
remember
that's
my
so cool.
one of the very first things I ever did was a stage performance, and when I came here, that's kind of how I also started. I did a show called Sweaters Burning. It was about an interracial relationship in South Africa during the height of apartheid, and it was very intense. The whole play was very intense. And we had a scene where I was with the other character, and it's a scene where we're having dinner. but it's us just talking, getting to know each other. But the audience kept laughing through the whole scene. And we were like, we would go off stage in between, we're like, what is so funny? What is so funny? But because they were like, oh, ha, 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 ha. And we were like having dinner, kind of getting to know each other, because I played like a dancer, and it was after the curfew, and the African-American guy was trapped, so I invited him over to my place, to stay. And we would just have a conversation, and they were laughing, but it was like tense, because then the character who played my boyfriend AWOLs from the army and catches him at my house. But they were laughing before that scene, and we were like, so funny. And it turned out it was more because we asked, like, afterwards, the people in the audience, what did you find so funny? It was the suspense of like what was going to happen. It was like nervous laughter. You know what I mean? They were like, that's so great. That guy's going to come. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like, yeah. So you got to like keep your mind this way and not get it tied into what the audience is doing, because they do something.
Yeah.
We're like,
that's got to be hard. Yeah.
I'm like, did I do something with my wardrobe?
Yeah. Oh, man. So early on in your career, did you keep any mementos along the way? Like on your first sets, do you keep scripts, or do you have any lashes stuff? Because that'd be
I
wild
do.
if you did. Really?
Yeah, I don't. I have Sindel's
cool.
hair, not the whole hair
okay.
piece. I have Sindel's the back hair piece. I still have that to this day. It's like hair this long. I have a script from my original script from Stargate. I still have that. Some of them I've given off at auctions to people to auction off.
That's great.
I had jacket from Wild Wild West. I still have a jacket, I think, from Kicking and Screaming, I think. Like a crew jacket.
Yeah.
From Lash. I have a framed like picture with like a whip in it and a poster that somebody made, but I don't know where that's from. I don't think it's the original whip, because the original whip was a real bull whip, So from Lash, no, just that, which I still have. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but we'll see. Maybe one day I'll auction it off somewhere at some collectors if they want it, because I don't know where that was from. I can't pinpoint it. How I got it.
Yeah.
Somebody gave it to me.
It's
somewhere
such a fun
along the line.
movie. I love that movie, and I love your character. And there was just like, it's just so over the top. Like with the guy
over the top.
Where his map was, like how funny that scene is. It's like, what?
That's my ex.
Really? He was the guy that you caught?
Yes.
If you're ever feeling down, you can just watch that scene over on repeat.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, that was
hilarious.
Really funny. Yeah. It was very funny. That's very funny.
Oh man.
Yeah, you better listen to me. I'm going to put a window in your head.
God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's funny.
You said this is so much fun. I'm so happy we connected. And
right, likewise.
You're great energy. Like you said, like I think that's why the in-person audition, I think it's so key, because you can really feel, even if they don't do this, like even a Zoom. That's crazy to me.
I'm actually going on a callback tomorrow in person for something different, but it's a commercial.
Cool.
But you have to audition the commercial at home, and they make you do like the whole thing, like you practically shooting the movie. And then for the first time, you have I have a callback in person. Normally, a callback is like even like in my room, which is like, and suddenly they open the camera up and they're like, okay, now do this. I'm like, well, I can touch the ceiling in this room, so I can't really do these things, It's much nicer to come inside and meet you and, see you. And, it's a feeling. It's like that feeling you get, So we'll see how tomorrow goes. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah, no, yeah. I did an audition for a game show they were doing in Jersey. It was like, Let's Make a Deal. And I was in my daughter's room, and the guy was like, let's play the game. And it was like, because I'm good at trivia. I'm like, all right, I know that. And he's like, can you be more animated? And I was like, okay. And then I like got a question right. So he's like, do you think you jump higher? And then I whacked my head on the ceiling fan because it was like really low. And I'm like, what am I doing? And it's so loud. And I'm like, I'll do that there. Like, I know, do you have to, what if I am the craziest right now, and then there I do nothing in front of a camera? I'm like, trust me, I will go nuts. I'll do screaming, whatever you need, but I can't be jumping around.
No, it's very funny. I had one of the whole like dance production. They sent you the music, you had to sing and dance. I'm like, really? Now, where in my house am I going to be able to do this? For number one, there's no room. So I decided to be very inventive, and I thought, well, you know what? At first, I was just going to pass. I'm not going to deal with this. I don't want to do this. And then I was like, well, I don't have anything else going on today, so I'll just do it. So I decided to go out of my yard, and I do the whole thing out there in my yard, okay, which is really funny. And I get a call back. So I'm like, okay, because I did like the entire production, okay, dancing. You can see I can dance. Yeah, because you can see I can sing, whatever, for this particular thing. So I get the call back. Now I'm in this room where I've got the screen here and the low roof. And now they have this app that they do your call back through, and suddenly the app opens the room out. Now you can see like whatever else is in my room. You know, the guy's like, "Okay, can you do the dance number?" I'm like, "In here?" I go, "No." No, I can't do the dance. Well, how am I supposed to do the dance number in here?
Yeah.
You know, I said, I sent you a whole video where I'm doing the dance number. What more do you want? I've got a resume this long. And
why do I have to do it again? Yeah.
Yes, and I've got all the stuff. Just, can I do something else? I can sing, but I can't do the dance number in my tiny room. Very funny.
Oh my
it just never stops. It's always something. Entertaining,
you
but
love
sometimes tiring.
Yeah. You love it. So that's an easy win when you love something, you're able to do it, and it's like you're not even thinking about it. Yeah.
Key to being an actor is you have to love it. You have to love it, and you can never give up, and you can never take it personally because everybody's going to have an opinion about you.
Yeah.
And you just have to be like a duck. Just let it go right over you and wash right off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Thank you so much, and I'm really happy we connected.
Yeah, likewise, Doug. Finally, right? After all this time.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Musetta was awesome. I think sometimes when I talk to people, I'm sure they do get the interviews where people talk about all the main movies that they're in, and not like because I do it because I just want to be like, oh, I want to be different. It's because I love Oblivion, and I love Oblivion too. Lash is such a cool character, and her story about her chopping her. In film-wise, in the movie, she's cutting the map off of her ex-husband's below the belt. And I love that I got a little giggle. I'm like, man, if you're ever like thinking about bad things about him, just watch that scene. It's on YouTube. And she like giggled. And she was a lot of fun. So yeah, your homework, it's a good one. And again, we always want to cover sequels, but sometimes it is just so hard to find the exact sequels. Because sometimes people they're in sequels, but sometimes we're just lucky that we actually covered all of them, even prior to talking to her. But yeah, so your homework's Transylmania. Quick Google search. I don't see it streaming anywhere. So this might be one of those difficult ones that it might be on YouTube or something, but I don't know. Hopefully we can find it, and then we'll be able to have this for you. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. Don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.